It's very possible that Mike Bobo is looking around these days and saying, well, where did all my explosive players go? And how can we be explosive like we were last year? All you got to do is take a look at the best playmakers from Georgia a season ago. Number 19, Brock Bowers, gone to the NFL. Marcus Roseby-Jack Saint, gone to the NFL. Lad McConkey, gone to the NFL. Three of their top four explosive players, of which two of them didn't play half the season. Well, they didn't play all the games. 10 games there for Brock Bowers, 9 games for Lad McConkey. It just wasn't a lot. So where are you going to get explosion from in 2024? I think that's a legitimate question when you look at Georgia's situation, because as good as Carson Beck is and as good as this offensive line certainly should be, you need quick, easy, explosive plays. And, Brock Bowers could do that, but Lad McConkey was really the one who could do that a lot. My suspicion is we're going to see a lot of the ascendance of Dylan Bell. I mean, Dylan Bell is just one player, but Dylan Bell is dependable. He's played a lot. He's explosive, very explosive. And then, how you get explosion is, you can't just depend on explosive plays, so to speak. I mean, what I'm trying to say, I'm not trying to contradict myself, but what I'm trying to say here is you do have to have everything. You got to run it. And running will lead to explosive plays too, not just in the passing game, but in the run game. But guys like Dominic Lovett, who, 54 receptions, I mean, that's a lot of catches. That's second most on the team, only behind Brock Bowers. 4 touchdowns, averaging 11 yards a catch, 43 yards a game. Dominic Lovett was a really productive player for Georgia. Ra Thomas, only 11 games, 23 receptions. He was averaging more 16 yards per reception. He was their most, in terms of, pure explosion. Only Arian Smith was more explosive than Ra Thomas. Arian Smith was at 20 yards a catch almost. Ra was at 17 almost. And, 17 and 23, I mean, 17-yard reception is pretty damaging to the other team. It's also going to, Arian Smith, he's just got to become more consistent. And if he does that, we're talking about a very different situation. If you could get one explosive from Arian Smith every, say, 3 games, maybe 2.5 games, that is a big deal. Because with the schedule that Georgia's got, when you're dealing with Alabama and Texas and Ole Miss and all these different teams, you're going to want to, I talk about this all the time, you're going to want to steal games. You're going to want a player to steal a game. So Auburn last year, Carson Beck, Brock Bowers, they stole that game. The rest of the team didn't really have to worry that much. Those two handled it. They stole that game for them. When you think about the end of the season with the run game and the way that Kendall Milton and John Edwards were playing, those guys were just chewing things up. It was too much. And then you got games like the Kentucky game where Carson Beck was just too good. So you want that as many times as possible so that when you don't play well, how good you are can, elevate you over and just get the job done. So the explosion part of it, if you can get that from Arian Smith like he had, for instance, against Ohio State, or in 2021 against Missouri, where he had a long touchdown from Stetson Bennett, those are game-changing plays. Those are plays that end games. Now, it didn't end the game against Ohio State, but it completely shifted that game in every single way. The game was not the same from that point forward. It just wasn't. And if Smith can become more consistent in terms of receiving the ball in his hands, then that's a different ball game. But Dylan Bell to me is the biggest playmaking receiver that's coming back to this team. You also have, the consistency of Lovett. Ra Thomas has a mixture of consistency and explosion. That's where you're going to get from all that. But Mike is going to have to, rely on a very good, capable, experienced offensive line, and the same adjectives can be used for Carson Beck. Someone who's been around the block, knows what's going on, has played this, played now for, 14 games as a starter. He's played probably 23 games, maybe, Carson, but he's not been the starter the whole time. The persistence and the precision from Carson Beck is also going to lead to explosive plays for Georgia. But you need explosives when you need them. Like getting them against Vanderbilt, or Tennessee Martin, those are not as valuable as getting them against Alabama, right? So it's also a matter of getting them when you really need them. Georgia needs to become more explosive in those games, like against Alabama, and they don't. What's kind of hard to, criticize because in terms of this part, because when you think about, they put up 40 plus points against Ohio State, they put up 50 against LSU, they put up I don't remember the final score, 70, almost 70 points against TCU in those games. And everybody only wants to talk about, the critics only want to talk about, well, against Alabama, they score. Yeah, because Alabama's good. Alabama's really good on defense. They scored 30 plus on them in the national championship, and that's what's going to take to beat Alabama. You're not going to beat them scoring under 30 points very often. They probably should have beat them in 17, scoring 26 or whatever it was, 23. But they didn't, and that style of football has sort of gone away. You're going to have to be explosive. In watching, the NFL this past week, defense is great and everything, but the defense can't score. Like, they can stop you from scoring, but the defense can't score. It's not a part of their, job description. That's why when they do score, it's such a big deal. That's the offense's job, is to score every single time they get the ball. It doesn't always happen, but that's their job to do every single time they get the ball. Can Georgia depend enough on its defense to hang in there against really explosive teams like Ole Miss, Texas? I would not call Alabama explosive or really explosive. I would say they're really gutty, and we don't know what 24 Alabama will be like. Maybe Kalen DeBoer will get them to be more explosive. But if they're going to be more explosive against Georgia, like, we've only seen that. They played 3 times here lately. We've only seen that once in that 3 times for Bama, which was, the 21 SEC championship game. So in 21, and then in 21, the first game, pretty explosive. In 21 later, not explosive. And then this past game, I would not call that explosive, no. And Georgia was not explosive. So when it comes down to it, you want as many guys as possible who can get you quick, easy, cheap points. Brock Bowers really hurt teams through the years. I've been talking about Alabama in this video. He really hurt Alabama over the years. Just go back and look at his production against Bama in the national championship game, the SEC championship game. He hurt them. But you're going to need Carson Beck to play well. You're going to need guys like Ra Thomas, Dominic Lovett. They're going to have to be steady and explosive. But it's going to be Dillon Bell. Dillon Bell's the guy that, if he gets it going like he should, then Georgia's going to have an explosive playmaking receiver. I'm talking over the top of this Ocean View glider from our buddies at EcoPoly. You can get a 20-year warranty on this completely made of recycled plastics product. 20-year warranty. You can get all these colors. I'm just showing you Georgia red. Here's Georgia black. But if you're Dillon Bell, the link, by the way, is down below. If you're Dillon Bell, you have the capability of working yourself into an extremely high draft pick in the NFL draft. And this guy is out here making catches that are pretty sick against Florida State, against Georgia Tech. Officials missed that call against Georgia Tech. I mean, they just missed that call. Now, that's going to happen. But they missed that call where Bell caught the ball on the Tech sideline. That hurt Georgia. But the explosion is there. Now, the other thing about, I point over this way, is where the board is for me, to my reference of all the scholarship players at Georgia. The other thing about Georgia's situation in terms of running backs is, and I can just say from Dwight Phillips exclusively, they have explosion in the backfield. That's there. You'll see, and I don't know how much Dwight Phillips will play. I don't know. My guess is he will not play more. He will not carry the ball like he's not going to be carrying the ball like 15 times this year. That's not going to happen in a game. But the 3 to 4 times that he gets it, I would make sure my seatbelt is buckled in pretty good because he can roll quick. It is explosive. It is right out of the gate. It's sudden, and he's gone. He is gone. I saw him play when he was banged up against a Forsyth County school. He was playing, Pebblebrook was playing Denmark. And he doesn't look like he's running fast. And he's gone. So that alone right there. But he might not be, he could be their number 4 back. So, but he will give you Arian Smith type speed from the backfield. And as you know, this is a bit of an exaggeration. You basically need 5 yards and you can be gone. If you're that kind of back, you don't need a lot of space. You just need to get even with the linebackers and it's over. So because everybody on defense has got to think about it. When you're in that situation, they got to turn and run. It's too late then. It's too late. If you're turning and running on Dwight Phillips, he's done. He's the band. He may tell the band to start striking up. And that's what Georgia is missing this past year. Was as good as Edwards and Milton were, and they were really good. You didn't get explosion. You got them exhausting people. And I think if you're Georgia, you'd like to have both. I like to score touchdowns. I think points are awesome. And so that's why I keep talking about explosion. But where's Mike going to get it from? It's all around him. And I think he's got a lot of choices.